everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a super day. Today we're going to celebrate all the fall fruit and harvest that we have. And we're going to celebrate that by making some great fall desserts. The first one is a nectarine and cranberry tartlet. And I'm using a square of puff pastry. I rolled it out with a coffee mug, if you can imagine, because I don't have a rolling pin. I placed it on a pizza pan under some parchment, and I buttered it, and I've added 2 or 3 teaspoons of cranberry sauce. Not cranberry jelly. You want to have some of the chunky bits of the cranberry showing through in this so that you can actually see that it's there. Jellied cranberry sauce would just all melt. So spread that around on the bottom. Now I'm going to add a thinly sliced nectarine. This nectarine was absolutely stunning in color. It had orange flesh on the outside going down to like a ruby red near the stone. Absolutely gorgeous fruit from here in Ontario. Place that on top of the cranberry sauce. And then I'm adding a handful of local blueberries. These also absolutely stunning fruit, delicious to eat just out of your hand. Also good in any kind of recipes you want to do, especially jam or things like that. I'm going to bake that in the oven at 350 until the puff pastry puffs up and turns golden brown. Right out of the oven, I'm basting it with some melted apple jelly. You could also use apricot jelly or peach jelly, whatever you like, but the contrast in flavor between the apple and the nectarine is delicious. Doesn't that look great? Man, that tartlet was so good that day that I made it. I ate all of it. I'm putting a little around the outside edges as well so that they look glossy. Our second recipe today is for a red pear tartlet. Do the same thing with the puff pastry. Make it into a square and roll up the edges. Remember, I used a coffee mug to roll this out because I don't have a rolling pin. At the bottom of the pastry, you want to brush it with butter and then add about 2 or 3 teaspoons of brown sugar. I've used dark brown sugar here because I just love the molasses kind of taste when it melts and caramelizes. You can use any kind of brown sugar you like here. I just prefer the dark because of the flavor. And it goes so well with the red pears. So I thinly sliced 1 red pear and I spread that over the top of the puff pastry on top of the brown sugar. Isn't that pear gorgeous? A beautiful ruby red pear. Top of that, I'm sprinkling with some pie spice. I've seen pie spice, I've seen apple pie spice, I've seen pumpkin pie spice. Really doesn't make any difference, but just be careful because some of them tend to be really loaded with cloves and you don't want to overpower the flavor of the pear. So a light sprinkle here and there of the spice just to give it some extra oomph. So we're baking this again at 350 until the puff pastry is golden brown. And here it is. Once again, glazing with melted apple jelly. Apple and pear goes together too. Absolutely delicious tasting, and it looked so good, like it came from a pastry shop, except the pastry wasn't perfect, and I kind of liked it the way it looked, kind of rustic to me. I'm not a pastry chef, so that's good. And the final thing we're going to do today is apple dumplings. This is inspired by my mom, who used to make Apfel im Schlafrock, which means apples in their nightgowns. She used to use pie crust to do this, and she used to cover up a whole apple and then enclose it in the pie crust and then bake it that way. So this is kind of a modification to her recipe. I've taken some Coquettes, some mini Coquettes, and I basted the inside of them with quite a lot of butter. You don't want the Phyllo Dough to stick in any way in these little Coquettes. In each Coquette, I've put 4 to 5 sheets of Phyllo Dough. I mean, if you don't have Coquettes, you could use ramekins. You could use any kind of baking dish that's round like this that has a deep center. I fitted the dough inside each of the Coquettes and made sure that the edges stuck out, because you want them to kind of get crispy and brown and look delicious. Once I had the dough in the Coquettes, I brushed them with melted butter. With Phyllo Dough, the more butter, the better. It just soaks the stuff up and drinks in all the butter flavor and makes absolutely delicious pastry. In the bottom of each, I put 1 teaspoon of cranberry sauce. Remember, don't use jelly. We want whole cranberries here. Apple and cranberry is a great combination too. So I've added some diced apples. I've used a combination of Macintosh and Honeycrisp. I would not suggest you using anything like Red or Golden Delicious, because they would just get too soft. Sprinkle the top with some pie spice. This has a great combination of cloves and cinnamon. It smells wonderful when it was baking that day. After the spice, we're going to add just a knob of butter to each one. And you're going to ask me, well, what is a knob of butter? Well, it's a little chunk. If you want to be absolutely determined to get the measurement, I would say it's probably maybe a half a teaspoon. I'm also adding a half a teaspoon of brown sugar on top, because we want the sugar to caramelize and envelop the apples and make kind of like a caramel apple inside. Oh, here's the butter now. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. We baked in a 350-degree oven until the phyllo dough was golden and crispy and brown. And now I'm brushing it with some melted butter again, because this pastry just loves butter. This would be a great pastry to make a strudel with. Maybe I'll do that one day and show you. All of these can be served with ice cream, whipped cream, or you can sprinkle with icing sugar. If you like the recipe, please give it a like. I would love it if you subscribed. Thanks for dropping by for more food that warms your soul. See you next time.